Hello, it's March. That's Women's History Month, and today we're going to talk about books that deal with that. This is a great one called The Evolution of Calpurnia Tate. It's set in Texas in 1899, and back in 122 years ago, women were expected to be wives and mothers, and that was it. But this girl, she gets to be about 11, and she's curious about nature and science, and she defies her family, sort of, and goes her own way. And it's a glimpse of how women did their own thing back in that time period. My grandmother, by the way, was somewhat of a suffragette, I guess, sort of. She actually went to work when other people were not. Roller Girl is another one we'll talk about today, and this is a story about a middle school age girl. It's a graphic novel, and she goes to roller derby camp. You ever heard of roller derby camp, right? She goes to roller derby camp, and then she has to think, she has to learn about skating and make new friends, and helps her figure out things about middle school. And she's very determined, and it's a very good book, certain to entertain, especially if you like graphic novels. Finding Wonders. This is actually 3 stories, and it's in poetry form. So, if you like verse and poetry, those type of things. It's about 3 different women in 3 different time periods in 3 different places, and each one of them discovers something famous in science. So Maria Martin is the first one to talk about, and she is, at the time, back, 150 years ago, people thought that caterpillars came out of the mud and they were dirty and they didn't know they turned into butterflies. She studied them and learned about the metamorphosis and where butterflies and caterpillars really came from. And then about 100 years later, the next lady in the book is called Mary Anning, and she's from England. And her father, for a living, to make extra money, he collects like shell creatures off of rocks by the ocean. But she discovers the fossils, and so she's one of the first people to ever discover fossils, and to talk about it changes our view of the past. And the third person is Maria Mitchell, and she is an astronomer. So she talks about, she learns about the night sky and comets, actually discovers a comet, which is pretty cool. The third book is about Amelia Earhart. I don't know if you know who she is, but she was a very famous person, and back in the late 30s, early 40s, I think before World War II, and she tries to fly around the world by herself, solo flight, all the way around the planet. So it's like 27,000 miles or something, and true story. And she was famous for other things. She was the first female to fly solo across the Pacific Ocean, for one thing. And she had some other awards too. Excellent pilot, but her plane was lost in the Pacific all those years ago, and it has never been found. The last one I'm going to talk to you about is about a true story. So it's about 31 different people, CEOs. So these are 31 women, and they grow up, or girls who grow up to become leaders of big companies. And there are a lot more women running large companies now than there were, a few years ago. And so you can read about them and read about where they came from and what they did to get there and how they became rich and powerful and famous. And it's pretty cool. All right. You guys have a good day. Captain, you have anything to add? I really like these books. Well, he really likes a lot of kinds of books. So, anyway, peace.